Welcome to the What If It's Not Depression podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Achina Stein. Today, we are going to be talking about social connection and relationships. I have Coach Lee Hopkins, who helps people take their social connections to the next level. Whether you want to feel more included at work, meet an activity buddy, or make a close friend to share your deepest thoughts with, he can help. He owns a social connections coaching company called Patterns of Possibility, where he helps his clients find fulfilling social connections and meaningful relationships with a simple 3-step process. Welcome, Coach Lee.
Thank you so much, Tina. I'm so glad to be here.
Oh, it's my
Wonderful.
pleasure. I'm so glad you were able to make it today. And hey, folks, if you love this episode, please click the like button and subscribe. So, Coach Lee, let's dive in and talk about what even got you into doing this work. I love your story. And when we talked about it before, it's like, hold on,
Hold on.
So
I
yeah,
was
let's dive in on into that.
Oh, I'm so glad that I get to talk about it now. I get to talk about my social connections and what brought me to this because we had such a connection and I'm always excited to find those. So what I do as a social connections coach is like you said, I help people find those authentic and genuine connections. And I had so much difficulty finding those connections in my life. That's why I started doing what I did. So as I grew up in a small town in Ohio, and I found that I was not able to connect with people. I watched so many people make friends, invite people over to play games, maybe have sleepovers, they'll do a little kiki together, ha ha he he. But I was just not included. I felt like there was something wrong with me. And so I
Mm,
turned to the adults and I'm like, hey, what's going on? They don't like me. And the adults would just give me the answers, be yourself. And I'm like,
mhm,
that's a lie because I am being myself and nobody likes it. So I
mhm.
tried people pleasing and that didn't work because we don't really like people pleasing either. There's something that feels off about somebody pretending to want to do the things that you want to do. So that
Right.
didn't work. So I asked my adults in my life, like, hey, well, what else can you give me? And people still don't like me. So they said, well, you know what? People just aren't gonna like you.
Mm.
Okay. Uh, so what do I do? Well, you gotta go find your tribe.
Where do you go with
What to do
that?
that?
Right? You got to
What do
find
you
your
do?
tribe, right?
You gotta
There's
find
always
your
going to
tribe.
be, it's funny when you talk about it when adults, right? Because I'm remembering conversations with my own children
Mm.
when they were growing up, going through this, right? Like all kids go through stages like this, right?
Mhm.
And so, some of the things that we might say as adults aren't helpful.
Not at all. You're doing the best that you can with the information as an adult. I can see that the adults were doing the best they can, but man, as a kid, I was like, "What? What am I gonna do?"
Yeah,
So
what am I supposed to do with that? What do you mean? Yes, some people won't like me, but everybody doesn't like me.
everybody, yeah, it
What
seems
am
like
I
everybody
supposed to
doesn't like me.
do with that?
So they said basically you got to find your tribe. And I didn't really know what that meant either. I thought that it was, if you're around people and they don't like you, then go to find people that will like you. And it turned out that that's exactly what I did. I moved around quite a bit in Ohio from social group to social group, from town to town. And then I finally left Ohio and moved to California. And I did that too in California. I opened up a little bit. I blossomed. I did some karaoke. I showed more of my authentic self. People really knew me, but they didn't know me. So
Mm,
then I had an opportunity to move from California to Chicago, where I am today, and I found myself doing the same thing, talking to people, feeling like I didn't belong in this circle, and then moving to the next circle, and moving to the next circle until I went to therapy and I started to understand more about my own feelings and how other people have feelings and paying attention to my feelings and being able to communicate those feelings clearly, honoring those feelings. And that's what made me more of my authentic self. So as I started doing that for myself, I took this new skill out to connect with other people, but I found a lot of people just couldn't do it. They were still trying to find their authentic self or trying to find their tribe, but you need to be authentic and really hone in on what your feelings are before you can actually connect another person. And I found that there's a lot of people who didn't know that. So I
mm.
wasn't able to connect with people. And I found that there's a need to do it, need to learn this skill. So here I am helping other people feel more connected, heard, understood, appreciated by sharing my experiences.
Wow. Wow.
Mm.
So now do you feel you've come to that place where you feel complete and have really deep connections with people?
Well, I do believe that I can have deep connections with people, and at the level that I try and get close to people, it's a little too much sometimes, and I recognize that. And so here's a story that I'd like to share with you,
Mhm.
that kind of taught me that lesson. It
Mm,
was so I had mentioned, no, I didn't mention. That was in our previous talk. But this is for you, audience. I'm transgendered. I'm female to male. And so part of my journey and part of my experience is coming to terms with the feelings that I have about who I am. Everybody has that experience in which they have
mhm,
to like figure out who they are and what it is important to them and all that. So that's how I relate to people. But specifically, I'd like to talk about being trans because that's a part of my identity. And
mhm,
so when I went out looking for friendships, I used to feel the need to hide it because I didn't want people to know, but then I felt like, "Oh, well, they won't know me. I wanna be
mhm,
known." Like, they wouldn't know me, like so this is a story that happened in Chicago,
mhm,
and as I said, in California, people that know me. So I wanted to change that in Chicago. So I had this positive mindset, I'm in therapy, I'm thinking, "I'm gonna go out and make a great connection with somebody." I go to this, comedy club and I'm like, positive mindset. I'm going to meet somebody, going to have a conversation. Sure enough, I do. I meet this really cool guy. We have a drink and we're talking during intermission, a nice conversation. And I lean the conversation towards LGBTQ stuff because, of course, I want to talk about being trans. I want to see if it's safe. I want to see if it's okay. And
mhm,
he says to me, I have never seen a trans person before. I don't know why anybody would ever want to have that experience. I don't have anything against them. I just don't understand it.
mm,
I thought, doctor, I thought, this is a great opportunity for me to educate him. And it's a great opportunity for me to reveal myself. It's not that he's expressing hate towards this, he just don't understand. So let me clarify for him. And so I
mhm,
say, I'm trans.
mhm,
And the look on his face just completely changed. It was an utter shock.
mm,
He said no more words, nothing else. Not only did he leave me, he left the entire venue. Didn't
mm,
see him at all. And so it's a lesson in being careful about sharing so much of yourself. Because I know that
mm.
happens a lot to people too. Where like,
Right,
I want you to know me so deeply, but we just met. Give
right.
me time. Please give me time.
Right, right, right. Yeah, I actually tell many of my patients that when it comes to relationships, to not overshare
Hmm.
because you put yourself in a vulnerable position, and some people misinterpret that oversharing as intimacy, and can sometimes take advantage of you or on some level, not physically, but even
Hmm.
like emotionally, on an emotional
Yeah.
vulnerable level. So it's better to get to know someone well and share super, like it's going from
Yeah.
outer circles superficially and testing out how they experience
Hmm.
and how they treat other people, what they think about other people. And
Hmm.
so you
Yeah.
you took his statement of "I know nothing" as not having an opinion,
Right.
right? And
Yeah.
when probably he didn't even realize he actually had an opinion. Some people
Right.
have implicit biases that they don't even realize that they have, right? And
Yeah.
yeah.
If I reflect back on the conversation now, I remember some of the things that he had said, and he had said that he didn't have any experience with LGBT stuff, and it was just what I interpreted is is an invitation for me to educate you in this moment. But if
Mhm,
I reflect back on the experience, we were drinking, we were in a bar trying to have fun. There was no education to be had. There was no life-changing experience for him because again, as I reflect on the experience, he had to take care of himself
right.
because here I am. He thought he was talking to a quote regular person, air
Mhm,
quotes, regular person. And I just shocked the crap out of him by
mm,
saying that I am the thing that you thought you knew a
mm,
little something about, but surprise. That
right,
had
right,
to be really scary for him.
right.
And it's, and so I recognize that, wow, it's like to your point about being careful what you share. I could have done damage to this person too. I took
Mhm.
something that was really heavy for him and I kind of expected him to hold it. That's how I think about oversharing. This is
Right,
really heavy. And I expected him to just be like, da, it's
right,
easy. Thank you for sharing with me. Now we can be closer. That's what I thought was going to happen.
right,
But he ended up
right.
dropping at that and
Like a
and
lead
hurting
balloon,
himself.
right?
Yeah, it just went and
Wow.
I could have done damage to him too in that sense of
Right.
so really being careful about what you share is
Absolutely.
mhm,
Absolutely. Yeah. So talk more, about, I mean, let's take a little deeper dive about what is social connection? Like, what does that
mm.
really mean?
I think social connections, there's definitely different levels of it.
Hmm.
And I think the deepest level is being able to share those things like who you are, like those experiences that you have, the deepness of your personality, your character, your history, all of those things. I think the deepest level is that, but we're
Hmm.
all longing for someone to talk about who we are. We want at least one person to understand our experiences about anything that we experience. We just want at least one person. But
Right.
there are some people out there who don't fit, who will not understand us that deeply. And we need those people too, because it's unfair of just looking at one person to be everything and anything and everything to us. We
Right.
need activity buddies. So a social connection would be being able to do an activity with someone, even if it's just one activity that you ever do. You go play tennis, you play board games, you play some video games, you go for a run, whatever it is, that one thing that you do, and you talk about shallow things. You don't talk
Hmm.
about the deepness of the character and your history with them. You talk about the thing that brings you together. We need
Hmm.
that kind of social connection in all assets of our lives because we're multifaceted. We need those people at work. We need those people outside of work. We need those people in uh, our religious or spiritual places. We need those people to talk about those things. And it's not just going to be one person. So that's what I think social connections is.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Mm.
I like the way you say, everyone is multifaceted, and you don't have to have people in your life that knows every single facet, right? It
Yeah.
and I think it's even rare, even with people who've been in each other's lives for many, many years. There's always something that will come up, like, oh, I didn't know that about you. Like, there's
Hmm.
always something new. And it might be new because you evolved and changed,
Yeah.
right? And that person may not have witnessed that evolution of you, and they come to know a different part of you, that
Hmm.
and had assumptions based on previous history. So, but yeah, having you can have activity buddies that don't know you intimately, on
Right.
an emotional level, but occasionally that activity buddy might know you better in that level, but it's not expected. And
Right.
sometimes people don't necessarily want that in a relationship.
Absolutely. There's some people that just don't want that, and it'll become a toxic connection if you try and force that. And I think
Mhm,
toxicity is in relationships of any kind is when there is a fundamental behavior of a person that you want to change. So
mhm,
there's something about your relationship or something about what they do that you do not like. You have
mhm.
two options. You can either stay and tolerate that, recognize that it is a part of them, accept it, recognize that that's who they are, or you can leave. Those are the things. I wouldn't suggest that you fight them and try to change
Right,
who they are, but many people do.
right, right. Yeah, the only person you can change is yourself,
Mhm.
right? And
Exactly.
yeah, yeah, that's the only control you have. And sometimes people go into relationships as a partner, into more romantic relationships, saying, "Oh, I'll change that for them. I'll fix that." Right? Yeah,
I've
you.
done that every single relationship I've done that, and so I'm single now.
Right, right, right. Yeah, so it is finding some common ground, having as many facets as you can that are in
Mhm.
alignment, but understanding that there's always going to be things in a relationship that's going to irk you or annoy you or even hate, right? So
Right.
it's being able to look at the strengths and the weaknesses in a person and coming to a place of accepting that and having unconditional love as much as possible. Right.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And And I would say just quickly on the relationships, the romantic piece part,
Mhm.
like so many people want to get into a romantic relationship, but I highly, highly suggest that you find a friendship before you get into a romantic relationship because those things are really emotionally charged, the romantic relationships, and
Mhm.
you're going to need somebody to decompress with. You're going to need a friend to talk about your romantic partner. You're just
Mhm.
going to need one of those people.
Mhm.
So I recommend that you find somebody to talk to that you can trust and get that confidence in before you go into the romantic relationship because you also need to be a friend to your partner, and there's a whole dynamic with that. But
Right. Absolutely, absolutely. Because it's not just emotionally charged, it's hormonally charged too,
mhm,
right?
yes. Mhm,
Just takes it to the
yes.
next level.
There's so many layers to it.
Exactly, exactly, and I think it's important for people to understand, why it's not easy to make social connections, and one of the reasons why I wanted you to come on to, this, show is because social isolation is like the next what they say the next smoking a
Mhm.
pandemic, it's just as bad as smoking or worse than smoking, and people
Yeah.
there's a increasingly morbidity and mortality of life, in life because of isolation. And, the pandemic wasn't helping that situation. But I think what also contributes to that is developing normal, healthy relationships as children. They're so focused on having a relationship with their cell phone or iPad or computer that they don't learn how to interact with human beings, and they don't learn how to talk to people, and
Mhm.
are afraid to use the phone or afraid to have a conversation because they just don't even have the vocabulary, right?
Right.
And so it's
Mm.
really important to play at a very young age, play with other human beings without the cell phone, without the iPad, without the computer, and
Mhm.
remove those modalities so that you can actually look into someone's eyes and interact more physically, in the same room,
Absolutely.
right? Or
Yeah.
it's or outdoors.
Mhm. Yeah, we need to so the one thing that really struck me about that, because you said the vocabulary, and if we're focused on the game, we have all our thoughts just in our head and it don't come out of our mouth.
Mhm.
They just don't. We're just like text, 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 and everything goes straight to our fingers, or we don't get to use our voice to express what it is that we need. And I think there's a lack of real expression. And I understand that the lack of expression is depression. Like you need to be able to express your feelings in a way that other people can understand. And there have been things that I think the younger generation has developed emoji speak and things
Right.
like that, but it
Yes.
doesn't quite get the same pitch and tone if I said it to you, if I said it to a person. And I think
Right.
that is what's really missing. Like that's why I see this all the time where people are asking on Reddit. I hang out on Reddit and I look through the forums and I see people are asking, what does this person mean? What does that person mean? Do you think they like me? I'm not sure. It's- And the idea to even try and talk to them doesn't even occur.
Right.
Like messaging to we're always looking outside of ourselves for the answer and we'll just have a conversation with them. But that isn't something that is in their skill set because they haven't done it before, and no
Right.
one's really advocating for that either. It's just go send a text message. If they don't respond in 2 weeks, then you know that they don't like you, but wait, just
Right.
there's a whole lot of stuff that hasn't been said. You
Right.
need to say the
Exactly.
stuff. You need to say the stuff to
Exactly.
each other. Yeah, and
Exactly.
so I'd hope to help people get more vocabulary around what it is, because that's what really helped me. And it's not a unique thing. It's not something that has been like never heard, not unheard of. It's just more prevalent these days or more focused on these days. Because when my parents told me, go find your tribe, they still kind of lacked the language of exactly what it was that I needed to do. I went
Right.
out and I found the thing I needed to do. So I'm not saying that you crazy kids don't know what you're doing, I'm saying that stand on the shoulders of giants. We've
Mhm.
been there and we have information for you. And whatever is happening now is a repeat of what we've seen before, and we can fix that. You want
Mhm.
closer, genuine connections? We know that the way is not through talking through other people or devices, is actually having conversation one on one.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And it takes quite a bit of courage to be able to do that. I mean, vocabulary is partly there, and I
Hmm.
I sometimes coach my patients to, if they have a, they may have the vocabulary, but even if they, let's say they have a difficult situation that they need to work through, it is saying it out loud to themselves in front of a mirror, just practicing it, having saying it out loud, not just in your head, actually saying
Hmm.
it out loud about what you're going to say to that person, and imagining the conversation of what that person might say back to you, and then saying out loud how you would respond, almost
Yes,
having a back and forth conversation, and
absolutely.
practicing it. Because a
Oh,
lot
I
of times when people have conflict, especially if it's conflict with another person that they've known for a while, if you had that I always kind of play this game with myself a little bit. If I have a difficult conversation, I'll have the conversation in my head, and I'll know exactly how they'll respond, because it's their patterns of
yeah.
response, right?
Hmm.
You get attuned to that, and one way to change the conversation is to give them a different response this time.
Hmm.
Change your tone, change the words, change the approach,
Yeah.
preface, about, like, I know you might get a little tense about this conversation, but really think we need to have it. So preface,
Right.
there's all of these things that you can do to lean into the conversation in a safe way.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And one of the things that I really like about what you said is that you may know what they're going to say, but you give them an opportunity to say something different. Do what you can. You can only control what you say and what you share with them. And I
Right.
think if one of the things that I really like to do is focus on my feelings and how I've been impacted rather than blame them for the things that they do. And like just that gives them an opportunity to really see you fully. And also, to your point, it's scary. You said it
Mhm.
takes bravery to do that. Yes, that is vulnerability, everything. You
Mhm.
hurt me. Oof, oof. What if they say they don't care? Oof. I don't
Yeah.
want that. I don't
Yeah.
want that. I'd rather get mad at you.
Right.
I'd rather have a fight than be like, "Oh, that hurt me," and
Right.
have them just poo-poo on your feelings.
Right.
So,
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think it is important to express the feelings around the issue.
mhm,
You know,
definitely.
yeah. And a lot of times when people have repeated conversations about the same topic, AKA marriages are like that,
Yeah.
long-term marriages there's always these unresolved issues that basically follow you for decades, and it's because there are feelings that are not being discussed. The
Right.
issues discussed over and over again, and it's not the feelings. And then everyone gets, they dig into the trenches
Dig into the
about
trenches,
their stance, right?
folding the towels incorrectly, or the way you have the toilet paper, or not picking up your clothes, or I do all the work, but there's a feeling but behind that that's not being expressed, like you said.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why is this such an issue for you? Yeah.
Mhm.
What's really going on? What's underneath that? Right.
The vulnerability. Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's get back to just beginning that social connection, like how you do. What are I'm assuming, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, that that's your three-step process. About what can you talk a little bit more about that? How somebody who is trying to find friends, what would be the first steps that they could do?
Well, the first step is to understand more about you. So we're always just focused on ourselves and understanding what our triggers are, what we like, what we don't like, all of those things. And the in step one, there are specific actions and behaviors that you want to see from other people. This is understanding more about yourself. So if someone does, like, I don't know, the way they put the toilet paper on the roll, if they didn't put it backwards or forwards, and it irks you for some reason, if it's a deal breaker, you have to know that about yourself. You have to know it and be able to say, look, I don't want this. I don't. And there's a bunch of other great qualities about you, but this is the one thing I don't want. And also, it's not just about finding those deal breakers. It's about knowing what it is that you do want. So some people will be like, I'm hungry. I'm hungry, but I don't want pizza. I don't want Chinese. I don't want Chipotle. Well, what do you want? "Well, I want food. Well, what do you want? I'm hungry.
Mhm.
I don't want I don't want Chinese. I don't want this. What do you want though? And
Right.
that's the idea of trying to flip the mindset to understand what it is that you want. Oh, I want pizza. Great. What kind of pizza? From where? What toppings do you want on it? Getting to the granular so you get what you want.
Mhm.
So that's the very first step, is to understand these specific actions and behaviors that you desire. And it comes from you, comes from us, like
Mhm.
the things that you enjoy. What are the things that you enjoy? Don't
Right.
focus on trying to see if somebody likes what you like what you like. Just do that, and you will naturally find yourself around people. So that's step 1 of the process.
Awesome.
It
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like that because you're right that people tend to focus on what they don't like or what they don't want, or they compare themselves to others and think, well,
Mm,
maybe I like that, maybe I want that, maybe I want that, but don't really know for sure. So it does require
yeah.
a bit self-awareness and
Mhm.
taking the time to really uh understand and figure that out. And so
Yeah.
yeah.
And, I wanna say that, this is the process that I've been through, and it's not anybody's fault if this is what you have been doing. It's what we've been told to do. Is what we've been told to do. Look for the latest fashion trend, look at what everybody else is doing, look at these group of people to fit in with them. We've been
Mhm.
told to look for everything outside of us, but unlearn that. When you unlearn that process and you start feeling more connected with yourself, you realize that everywhere you look, you're going to see that people are telling you you need to fit in. And
Mm,
so it's really like to your point, the self-awareness of knowing that once you start feeling and connecting with yourself, there are going to be signals and signs of people telling you, hey, you can't do that. You might be tempted to go back and to try and fit in, but it won't serve you. That has been my experience too. It won't serve you.
right. I totally agree with you. And there is a stage in adolescence, and it probably goes into the 20s of putting on trying different things, dyeing
Mhm.
your hair, piercing your nose, right? Cut,
I
tattoos, right? Everybody goes through that stage, different styles of fashion, how you decorate your room. And some of that is copied,
Mhm.
and because you want to try to fit in, but then you find little by little, if you allow for yourself to be okay with it and try to get the shoulda, coulda, wouldas out of your head,
Mhm.
uh, then you will find your true self, your authentic self. You know.
Absolutely. And, if I could share a story about
Sure.
transitioning and finding my authentic self.
Hmm.
So, I had thought for a very long time that I didn't have the vocabulary. I didn't feel like I was in the right body for a long time, for since I was young. I was wondering when I was gonna do the things, look like a guy. I thought I was gonna transform into one of those, and that
Hmm.
didn't happen for me. And so I had made my transition in my early 30s.
Hmm.
So it happened pretty quickly because I was established and I had my company had helped me pay for the surgery. Actually, they paid for the surgery and they gave me time off, and I had all these benefits. I had a group of people that were helping me go through, other people who transitioned were helping me go through this process in the
Hmm.
form of a support group. And I thought that I'm finally going to be my authentic self. And then I'm going to make all of the friends. I'm going to feel connected. I'm going to be heard, understood, appreciated. But I was the loneliest when I first started doing this because
Mm,
I went to the group of people that only 1% of the population does this transition like I do, this physical transition, with the surgery and everything. And I'm like, these are my people because, wow, look, I am like you in this way. And it's a physical change. But emotionally and mentally, I was not. I felt
mm,
the loneliest because I thought that this is where I belong. This was my tribe. But because I had so many other advantages as far as financially. So I was able to pay for my surgery and all that. While most people struggled and they felt like they were really oppressed with it. And of course, they have those feelings, but we didn't have the same kind of connection. And I was so lonely and disappointed. I thought that that was going to be it. But it
Mm,
wasn't until I made my inward journey, when I looked inside, that I realized that this was not the end. It wasn't it. I wasn't fully my authentic self by transitioning. And I say that to anyone who has transitioned or would want to challenge me or whatever. I don't think that whatever you do outside of your body is the authentic you. So this fits. I'm not saying that I want to turn back or change back. That's right for me. It's correct. All right.
mhm,
It's like buying a new shirt
mhm.
and believing that it's going to change your life.
Right.
That's what I think. Changing my outer appearance is not going to change the inside. So finding your authentic self does take that work and that
Mhm.
time and that energy and putting
Right.
it in. So it's all about this inward look that we
Yeah.
talked about a moment
It's the
ago.
whole package, not just the
Mhm.
outer package. Right.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it is
Yeah.
reflected outward. You were yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, people who want to lose weight and feel like they, if they would feel so much better in their bodies if they were 50 pounds less. And sometimes when people do actually meet that goal, and it's possible, they get the surgery to lose all the
Mm.
weight, right, for like a gastric bypass, and they think, oh, I should be happy now. No, we have a lot
Mhm.
of inner work to do.
Yes, that's
And
exactly it.
many times people who do have the gastric bypass, if they haven't done that inner work, that weight comes right back on,
Mhm.
because there's a reason why sometimes people need to be that, that heavier weight. They get maybe more attention, and they can't handle the attention when they've lost, once they lose the weight, right? So
Mm.
there's many reasons why people feel very vulnerable, because now, oh, everyone's looking at me, and it's like, oh, people used to not look at me, now people are talking to me, people not used to not talk to me. Right.
Mm.
And it gets scary for them. So, and it was safer to be the heavier weight.
Mhm.
So it's really important to do that psychological work before doing a bypass surgery, kind of thing. And
Absolutely.
and that's why actually seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist prior to a surgery like that is really, really important.
Mm.
Yeah, they actually require, some places do require that.
Wow. That is really powerfully important because like it is an experience that we all have. We need to look inward and to
Mhm.
talk to somebody about what we're really feeling before we do something that we believe outwardly is going to change the inside.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. If we're putting um, all of our, what is that? I'm terrible with these kinds of statement where we put
Eggs in the
everything
basket?
into one bag. Yeah. All of our
Eggs
eggs
in
in
it.
one basket. Yeah. That's it. You think you're putting, when you do that, then yeah, it makes it tough. So put a couple of eggs in the basket.
Just a couple, yes.
Just a couple. So what is your second step? You said the first step.
Oh, the second step is all right, once we got that list of the actions and behaviors we want, step
Mhm,
2 is to go to the places in which people do those things that we want them to do.
mhm,
Because so many times we'll write a list, and I like it to think about it as grocery shopping, and we got fresh organic vegetables.
right.
That's what we want. We got it on our list. We're like, yes, Coach Lee, this is what I want. And then they go shopping at a 7-Eleven. No, no, sir, no, ma'am. You're not going to find what you need in that 7-Eleven. You need to go to the Whole Foods up the street. I know it's cheap, easy, and convenient to go to that 7-Eleven. You're used to it, but you're not going to find what it is that you need. Get out of your comfort zone and go to the places that people have the things that you're looking for. So
Mhm,
that's step 2 is helping them get to those places, recognizing those places, and being in those places.
right.
And then step 3 is once we're in those places, we're not gonna mill around and be like, "Oh, nobody likes to talk to me. I don't know." Nope. We are going to be intentional with our time and our energy. We're going to talk to those people. So I give people skills to have the conversation, start the conversation. And not only just start the conversation, we're going to talk about things that are important to us.
Mhm,
We're going to talk about things that are important to us because we want them to know more about us, then we don't want to waste time trying to figure out if they like what we like. We know what we like. We want
mhm,
to express what we like to them.
mm,
So to see if we're on the same level. And then the part of that third piece is being able to let go and dealing with rejection. So there's
Mhm.
two pieces I like to look at rejection in two ways.
Mhm.
When we are rejected, ouch, that hurts. We have to be able to feel that and recognize that, change our mindset around it. We don't want to be with people who don't want to be with us. So great, we got rejected. Changing our mindset is hard, it hurts, but it's a process to go through.
Right.
And then the second piece of it is being able to reject someone else. And this is really hard because when we got people on our list, we think we're in the right place, talking about the right things, and oops, there's this one thing that we know we don't like, and we're just trying to bypass that. No, don't, don't. If
Mhm.
you absolutely know for sure who you are, that's step one. You absolutely know for sure that you will not like this. Do not try and force it. You're going to get frustrated with them for them being their authentic selves, just living their lives, doing what they normally do. And you're going to take offense and you're going to try to change it and all those things. And you may resent them. Just let them go. And oh, I did this is the biggest the hang up people have is like, oh, I don't want to hurt their feelings. How selfish is it of you to keep somebody close to you that you can't stand? Let them go.
Right, right. It's very selfish. Yeah, it's better to be truthful about how you feel and let the relationship dissipate, right?
Hmm.
But and you're also being authentic to yourself too, and you're not carrying this burden and feeling guilty about it and
Hmm.
feeling shame about like all these other feelings get piled
They
on as
come in.
well, right?
Yeah, it's a
And then
party.
then there's the big blowout, right?
Yeah.
Where that's when feelings are really hurt, right? Yeah,
Yeah. They're like, well, you never had a problem with it before. I've always had a problem with it.
right.
Raw. This is
Right.
my own experiences too.
Right, right,
Hmm.
right. So it's very important to be truthful to yourself so that you can then have the courage to say something. Yeah,
Absolutely. Hmm.
yeah.
So
That's
it
go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say it really just so step one, it starts from within. And I mentioned something about eating right that helps us with this process. I do believe it as a holistic approach because I know everything I'm saying is easier said than done. It's a
Mhm,
process to go through, but these are the steps. And I think eating is something that can really help you take the edge, well,
mhm,
give you an edge on that.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm,
So I started to gain a lot of clarity when I started to change my diet from greasy fast foods to more whole foods, so fresh organic vegetables.
mhm,
And it really has helped me with my gut. So I've learned about the gut and how it is really your brain, and your
mhm,
brain is thing. It's I don't know what it does, but
mhm,
your gut, we really think with your gut more so. And what we've been discussing is emotional intelligence,
mhm,
social emotional health right here. This is what we've been talking about. And I've noticed, I used to drink a whole lot. I used to smoke cigarettes and all the stuff that, are bad for you and may harm your gut. But the food also does a thing. It's not full of nutrients to help your brain function or help you function. So I've changed my diet to something that's more leafy, whole foods, whole vegetables. And what I've noticed is certainly more energy, but clarity. So
mhm,
the things that I'm talking about, emotional wellness, is being able to share your emotions in a clear, concise manner. And
mhm,
if your gut is rocking your mind and you're like rah, 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 you are not going to be able to express your emotions clearly and concisely so that someone else can hear you. And
mhm,
also, it is very difficult for you to hear anybody else's feelings if you're already rah, rah, rahing
mhm,
about your stuff. So somebody could say something really small to you, and all of a sudden you're rah, rah, rah back with them. You're fighting with them because you don't have your own centered social emotional wellness. And I
mhm.
think it starts in the gut. I really do believe that.
Mhm. Yeah, well, a lot of things start in the gut. Your
Yeah.
immune system's in your gut. All your neurotransmitters for your brain are made in the gut. So and there's the gut brain connection through the vagus nerve. So
Hmm.
there's a lot going on there, and I think you've intuitively made those connections. But the other piece of it is that when you take care of yourself, when you remove the things that does harm, you're
Mm.
actually showing yourself self-respect. So when people go through life not connecting with
Hmm.
others, they think, well, what's wrong with me? And then they draw conclusions. Oh, I must be bad. If I'm bad, I'm worthless. And if I'm worthless, and I'm just going to treat myself poorly. And so there's
Hmm.
behaviors of smoking, drinking in excess, or eating poor foods, that are not healthy for you, actually is a behavior of disrespect to your body. Right? You need to feed your soul, your body, but also your soul. And it's a level of respect, self-respect. It's nurturing, self-nurturing, that is going on. So, and that's not true for everybody, but I think people need to really think about, well, why do I do this? Why do
Yeah.
I, you know, drink this much, or why am I eating this? I I I know it's going to affect me on some level someday, but why do I
Hmm.
continue to do it? There's so many warnings about alcohol and smoking, right?
Right. Exactly. I
So,
love this. I
yeah.
disrespecting your body. I love that idea because as you spoke about it, I'm thinking about how there were many moments where I would stop and question myself and ask why. Like there were things that I would do for myself that I would not do for myself that I would do for others. Like I was not eating well and I would cook for somebody else. If I knew I was going to have a guest, I would make sure to cook for them, but I wouldn't do anything for myself. And it kept showing up. It was like somebody brought it to my attention. I'm like, oh, maybe I should do that for myself. And I remember one day I made a salmon and I made some spinach, and I was like, oh, this feels good. Huh.
Mhm,
And then I started to notice little other things. Like I had 4 plates and I had one that had a crack in it. And
mhm.
for some reason, I would always pick that top cracked plate. I would always pick the cracked plate and I would eat off of that because I was single, and I would just eat off of that one. I'm like, why I got 3 good plates here. Why am I disrespecting myself this way? Why don't I treat myself well and just pick the good plate? But
Exactly.
it's like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Those are the things, like, it's those little things that can give you clues about how you perceive yourself.
Mhm.
And if you perceive yourself that way, what do you think you're projecting out to the world?
I'm not
Right?
worthy. I'm not worthy.
But
You shouldn't treat me well because I don't treat myself well.
exactly. So
Mhm.
yeah, and then who's attracted to that? Right?
People
People
who
who
agree
don't
with
treat
you.
you well.
It's
Right? I mean, and
like
and there are people who look for people to treat
yes.
poorly. They're perpetrators, or users, abusers, whatever. And so it is really important to set those boundaries, and it starts from your first step, knowing, what do I want? When you say what you want and let go of the people or the things, or the behaviors that you don't want, you're setting boundaries and saying, this is who I am, right? This is
Yes,
who I
yes,
am.
yes. And I think on your point, I'm so excited that you said that because boundaries, they seem like they are rules and behaviors and conduct for other people, but they aren't. They're just a statement of who you are, your desires, your needs, your likes. I like to categorize them as your needs, negotiables, and your nevers. Those things that you
Mm,
know about yourself that you know you need, so you can negotiate and as you never want to have the experience that you never want to have. They're boundaries that you can change, of course, but those are the core of who you are, and it's so important to know that for yourself. It's like
right, right.
that's
And yes, and to express it without fear, shame, or guilt.
mhm,
Right. Yeah.
yes,
So
that
tell me, who is worthy of our time?
who is worthy of our time? I
Yeah.
love this question. This whew, I wanted to say I wanted to say everybody and anybody, but that's me. That's where I'm coming from because I'm super curious. I want to see a little bit about who you are, and I'm going to poke at you and see a little bit of stuff. But who is worthy of your time? I think it depends on what it is that you can gain from the situation. I firmly believe that this is what humans do. We're always looking for how we benefit. We always behave in the way that's going to benefit from us in the situation. And if we become aware of the benefit that it is for us, we can question and see what the benefit really is. If it is what we really wanted from the situation. For example, we talked about smoking and drinking. I
Hmm.
wanted to smoke and drink because I didn't feel like I didn't want to feel what I was feeling, and I wanted to be around people, and that's what I thought you did to be around people. When I started to question, what is the benefit of me smoking and drinking? Is it giving me that benefit? I'm starting to feel kind of ill.
Mm.
Maybe it's not so beneficial anymore, so I'll stop doing that. And
Mm.
if you approach our connections and conversations with people the same way, if it's the benefit of having this conversation with you serving me, is it has it or how is it? Hmm. Are they worth my time then?
Mhm.
So then you find the answer. But I firmly believe that it's about who is worthy of your time is a person who you can benefit from having a connection with. And you both understand the benefit, like your social buddies, you're doing something together, playing tennis together. You know why you're playing tennis together. You know what it is that you're doing together. So those are people who are worthy of your time.
Yeah, yeah, and I like the way you say benefits, and but there's also, are there side effects that sometimes
Ooh,
people, try to tolerate, and but it doesn't feel good, so they
mhm.
might see a benefit, but then there's side effects to the
Yes.
situation, right? So, and I think sometimes some people might say, "Oh, you mean you're just in this relationship because you can get something for nothing or get something, out
Yes.
of this?" Yeah,
I
right.
I will say yes, I am. I'm in the relationship because I know how I benefit from it. I know the reason why we are together, and I better know, I hope to know that the person I'm talking to has the same about me. They know the value that they bring in because the last thing I want is for me to send them a text message or me to call them and they wonder, why do you even talk to this guy?
Hmm.
That's the last thing I want. I want
Right,
you to know the joy that I bring to you, and I want you to know the joy that you bring to me. That's
right,
the reason why we connect.
right. And sometimes it's okay to say, you know, I value you for this reason. Right? Some people
Yes.
need to hear it. Some people need to
Yes.
hear it, and because they may not even know that about themselves. So there's the voice again, speaking the words, I
Say that.
appreciate you. I really appreciate you and why I appreciate you, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Then they won't be going to Reddit to ask other people because you're gonna tell them.
Exactly. They'll know for sure. They don't have to wonder, right? And
Exactly.
so I think it's okay to have that kind of relationship. That's what a true healthy relationship actually is, to have a back and forth conversation about it, and
Yes.
to be with each other, even and then you don't, once you have had that conversation, you could be with each other and not speak a word and just know and have that connection, right?
That's what I'm hoping to get, that deep kind of where you just kinda look at each other and you're just like,
Right.
"Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, there's trust already. There's trust already established. That's ultimately, I think that's what most people want, is to have that trust, to know that if something happened, that that person's going to drop everything and be there for you,
Yes."
right?
And it really does we really look for trust, and I like to say that trust is, it's not like people say, "I want to trust somebody," but if we just stretch out the sentence a little longer and we say, "I want to trust that they have my best interest in mind," that's what we're looking for, and if we pay attention to
Hmm.
how we feel around these people, we will know. We won't have to ask them because they will
Right.
do the thing, and we'll feel the feelings.
Right.
So, I wanna trust you, gotta pay attention to what it is that they're doing as well, so you can build that trust. You can really build the trust.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it doesn't have to be a verbal conversation. It could be a look on the face, it could be, and so it's paying attention, like
Mhm,
you said, to what is it in my body that doesn't feel right when I'm with you.
mhm.
So and really looking for those clues and then having a conversation about it
Yeah, absolutely.
with yourself
There's
and then with that person.
yes, with the
Right?
self. Yeah, I forgot to touch back on that, but that is just a powerful tool. You have to be able to speak it out loud Because we used to practice that all the time in group therapy, and the leader, and this is how powerful our patterns are. The
Mhm.
leader would give us the language to say the thing, and I remember many times I heard what they said, but in the role play, not even in front of the real person, the role play it, I couldn't say the right thing. I said the old stuff that was going to cause the fight.
Right.
I would do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it really it's they're patterns that need to be practiced, undone, unraveled, and then new grooves need to be set. And those grooves actually start with words and practicing. It takes practice. It's
Right
not going
on.
to come the first time or the second time or the third time, especially if it is something that has a lot of emotion,
Ooh, boy.
yeah,
Hmm.
connected to it. So that's where breathing really helps too. Learning how to breathe, even pausing. It's important to pause, gather your thoughts, and just say, I need to think about this, even to give yourself permission, to think about something. And you could put your finger up. It's like, give me a minute. I'm
Yes.
thinking, I'm gathering my thoughts. And people are always willing, if the relationship is important and valued, people are willing to
If the
wait.
relationship is important and valued, people are willing. Of course. Yes. I don't want to let that ever go. If the relationship is important and valued, people are willing.
Right.
Don't let that idea go. Anybody who's listening, don't let that idea go. You are
Yeah,
worthy. Mhm.
absolutely worthy. Yes. Yes. So yeah, so intimacy does take allowing yourself to be vulnerable and allowing yourself to be uncomfortable. You grow only by being uncomfortable. It doesn't
Right.
have to be forever, but moments of uncomfortableness. But in the end, you'll be, happier person, you know,
Mhm.
yeah, and certainly closer to being authentic
Absolutely.
and closer connections. Yeah.
Yes. You got to be authentic to yourself. That's the way it
Yeah.
works. The thing that the elders, I don't know, didn't tell me was that you are wherever you are is your tribe is there,
Right.
essentially. So the more aware and authentic who you are becomes apparent to
Right.
you, then you'll find yourself around people who do the same thing.
Right. Right. So, wow. Well, this was a great conversation.
Yeah,
And I could talk about this forever. There's so many
we
things
could.
add to this. But I feel like we covered a lot, and it was a real pleasure to speak to you about these things. And I wish you well in your business. And I just want to say on the on this recording that your website is www.patternsofpossibility.com, and you're on Instagram, patterns of possibility on Instagram
Mhm.
as well. And you have something to offer, an ebook, that
Yeah.
will put a link in our show notes for people to download as well.
Yeah, can I say one more thing? Since this, I've created a quiz to kind of help you with your social connections because I realize some people don't really know what it is that they're looking for, what is missing, and so I created a quiz. There's for your personal connections and your professional connections. You can find that at Patterns of Possibility as well.
Awesome. That's great. I love quizzes.
Oh,
It
great.
helps to get the wheels turning, so to speak,
Mm,
right? Things
mhm.
to think about. Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much. I really am happy we had this conversation.
Me too. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.